what we observed in the past couple of years is Singapore has really emerged as a major international listing hub for both for Singapore investors and international investors wanting to list their REIT in Singapore. So what we've seen is a lot of international investors with overseas portfolios, whether in Europe or North America, that are actually listing at a Singapore stock exchange for several reasons. Singapore is a very attractive tax jurisdiction. There's very clear and very strong corporate governance structures here in Singapore. And there's also a very sophisticated network of consultants and institutional organization that can help REIT structure in Singapore. And there's a lot of institutional and private capital. So for all those reasons, Singapore is really emerging as a major global REIT listing hub. There's 7 broad asset classes represented in Singapore REITs currently. What we've observed in the past few years is alternative assets are really growing their share of the total portfolio. Alternative assets we can refer to, for example, healthcare assets, data centers, senior housing, rental residential in different markets. In the United States particularly, there's a growing number of those portfolios that are listing in Singapore for tax reasons, but also for access to capital. Recently, there's been one of the REITs on grocery store anchored shopping malls. It's an alternative asset class in a Singapore context. In Singapore REITs, it's approximately 1/3 of properties that are located in Singapore, meaning that 2/3 of properties are located outside of Singapore. And what we've seen is there's a growing number of properties that are located outside of Asia. So one of the key growth markets in recent years has been the United States. Both Singapore investors and international investors are listing REITs in Singapore with US-based properties, including in alternative asset classes. Currently, there are 26 countries where S-REITs have properties. There's a couple of key gateway markets where there are no properties listed in Singapore. Canada and Switzerland, for example, they're major gateway markets. There's no properties in those markets in Singapore REIT. So these could be opportunities for investors to look at.